This is a Defocus Media production.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. Today, I'm super excited because we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about retirement. We're going to talk about how you can change your life. You know, as eye care professionals, as healthcare professionals, we go to school and we learn all about the eye, but we don't really learn about business. We don't really learn about how we should manage our money. We don't really think about retirement. And today we have a guest that has all the answers for us, and that's going to help us think a little differently, but elevate, when it comes to strategic planning for retirement. Friends and family, I'd like to welcome my colleague, my friend, Alan Porter. Alan, how are you doing today, man?
Well, thanks, Dr. Daryl. Listen, I may not have all the answers, but I got a bunch of them that people need to know.
I love it, man. And that's why I'm super excited to have you on the show today, man. I mean, you've been in the game for a while and you have a pretty fantastic background. I mean, you've been on all types of shows, all types of channels, from ABC to CBS to NBC to Fox. So clearly, you know what you're talking about, my friend. So I'm really excited to share this stage with you this evening. Now, before we get started, before we, dive deep into, learning how to be strategic when it comes to wealth and building, give us a little bit of background about yourself, Alan, if you don't mind telling us, where you're from, where you live,
Sure.
What you do, and also, most importantly, your why, if you don't mind sharing that, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, it all started. I had a 13 draft number when I was 18 years old back in Nebraska. That's where I used to live. And I was in the Army for 21 years. I was a tank commander at first. They were going to send me to Vietnam, but I got out of that. But I was a tank commander. And I went to flight school. I flew all kinds of helicopters. But the last 12 years in the Army, I was a Black Hawk instructor pilot for 18th Airborne Corps. And I tell people I dodged all the bullets, made a safe land for every takeoff, and had a successful career. And I had a passion for what I did. I love flying and love serving my country. Now, since that time, I retired back in 1993. Man, it just seems like it was yesterday.
That's what happens when you're having fun, my friend. That's the deal, right?
Flying. I've gotten all the way across the United States from Seattle, Washington to North Carolina, 50 feet off the ground. I mean, it's quite the experience. Gone from New York all the way down to Key West, 50 feet off the ocean. It's quite an experience.
Wow.
But, I had a successful real estate and mortgage business up until about 2009, 2010. And I didn't have a passion for doing anything there. I was just a business. I was working for myself, of course. But I had some tragic things happen to my family. My son, approximately 2008 or 2007, at 35, became 100% disabled. And we went to Little Rock, Arkansas, where he lived with his wife, Lynn. She was 39 at the time. And they had two little daughters. They were 7 and 4, Lauren and Taylor, my granddaughters. And Todd had not worked for 3 years because of disability.
Wow.
And it's only until the summer of 2010 that he got his disability. That's only after we hired an attorney. But, you remember certain days in your life. The day the Challenger blew up, September 1st, 2011. Well, I remember January 5th, 2010. Lynn called us up. She said, Alan, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They give me 6 months to live. That changed our entire life.
Yeah.
At that time, I thought, like 99% of the people out there, Dr. Daryl, that life insurance was a death product, that you had to die to benefit from it. Well, I've learned so much. And I'm so passionate about what I do because of what I've learned. It is the only product that will protect you if you live too long, die too soon, or get sick. And I'll try to explain some of it in this podcast. But here's the thing. Lynn had a terminal illness rider on her life insurance policy that let her access up to 90% of the death benefit, which was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, completely tax-free. And I didn't know that at the time. But if it had not been for that, my son would be bankrupt. Because he was getting no money. And
Right.
it took a huge financial strain off of me. So I started studying insurance products. Well, Lynn passed away in January of 2010, leaving a 7-year-old daughter and 4-year-old daughter to live with her disabled father. So we moved them back here. They lived behind us. But about a year after that, my daughter, Nicole, she's an oncology nurse. Her husband's a doctor. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was bad. Her husband, we talked about a month after she was diagnosed. She said, Alan, I don't think she's going to live.
Wow.
And she had 16 chemos, a double mastectomy, 35 radiation treatments,
Jesus.
and reconstructive surgery. And thank God she's over 10 years cancer free now.
Oh, man. Amen. Jeez.
But I want you to understand something. She's got Graves' disease, and she's got this disease called bulging eye syndrome. And she has to take 8 transfusions. She finished her last one last month. But the first one was $30-some thousand. The second was $80-some thousand. And the last one was over $230-some thousand.
Wow.
Now, listen, understand, I want everybody to understand, if it had not been for insurance products, not only my family, but the family of my daughter, my son, and everybody else out there that insurance has saved would be financially devastated. And then last spring, and I want to educate people on long-term care because that's very, very important. People said, I've got clients all the time. Oh, I'm not going to leave long-term care. Well, guess what? 70% of all Americans are going to need long-term care at some point in their life. 40% of all Americans between the ages of 18 and 64 are on long-term care right now. And this is an age lab study by Dr. Pekorski at MIT University.
Okay.
If you're married and age 65, there is a 75% chance of you contacting Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's. Now, understand, I'm 70 years old. I've got 3 of my friends. One of them died last year of Alzheimer's. 2 of them are sitting in nursing homes. They don't know their families. They don't know themselves, and they're wasting. All they're doing is spending their family's assets. But I had to go back to Nebraska last spring and put my brother in a nursing home. And let me tell you something. That is the hardest thing you will ever do.
Yeah.
There's crying, there's arguing. But here's the thing. The state patrol had called his daughter up, said, you need to come back, pick up your father. He does not know what he's doing. He's disoriented. Well, come to find out, he was going against traffic the wrong way. He's lucky to kill himself or somebody else. So we put him in a nursing home. And I remember when I left, we're sitting in the back porch, we're talking about something, and he tells me the same thing 10 times in a 10-minute period. But I called him about a month ago, and he still remembers me, remembers my name and everything, still going pretty good, but he's got bad times. And about 2 weeks ago, he called me, and I could tell something was wrong with him. He said, Alan, I can't live like this. I'm so much pain. And the week before, he had kidney stone removed, but he's still having problems. He can complete pain just going to the bathroom. And then he hung up. Usually it's 20 to 30 minutes, and I have to hang up on him because he's very lonely. But he hung up. And then 2 days later, he calls me up and he says, Alan, I love you. Tell everybody I love them, but I can't live this way. And he hangs up. So I got concerned. I called my daughter, my niece up. And I told her about what he said. He said, Alan, he tried to commit suicide last night.
Oh, my goodness.
But I can't blame him. I wouldn't want to live like that. Complete pain all the time. He can't even stay down, stand up, or sleep. But people need to understand long-term care will decimate a family's retirement.
Yeah.
It decimates the caregiver in something called Medicaid spend down. I don't care if you got $2 million in an estate. What the government will do, because Medicare does not take care of your long-term care. Medicaid does. And what the government will do, they'll take all your assets and spend it to take care of the person in long-term care. And the caring person, the spouse left over, is left with approximately $137,000, one house and one car, and that's it out of $2 million.
Wow.
There are so many things that I could tell people about. I just did a video today on the 401k. It's a scam.
Uh-oh. Well, before we jump into all of this, because I know everyone that's listening is like 401k scam. We look for that for retirement. But one of the main reasons why I brought you on the show, Alan, is because I had the opportunity to actually read your book, man. Wealth Beyond Taxes. And I was blown away by it. There's a lot of great information in here. And the one thing that really connected me to you was the story that you told earlier, because that story is in this book. Right. And for me, I always look for the why, right? why are you doing this? Right?
Well,
Some people
yeah,
do things because there's a personal connection. Some people do things just for the money. Right. And I always want to partner with people that are doing things for the right reason. And that's why I wanted to bring you on the show this evening, because I wanted to dig a little deeper in your mind, in your brain, and understand how us as healthcare professionals can really leverage the tax system. How can we, make sure that we're truly leveraging it in the right way so that we can take care of our families and set up generations down the road. So I really want to dive into that. And when
okay.
it comes to taxes, some of these things that you're touching on, some people are going to say, how come my CPA isn't talking about this? Why aren't they having this conversation with me? Why are they not, giving me these gems, this valuable information? So I'd like to really start there and then kind of go a little deeper into some of the other things that are in this book, if you don't mind, Alan.
Sure, no problem. People ask me all the time, what do you do? I said, it's not what I do, it's why I do it, just like you asked. I said, I have a passion to educate people on the financial strategies the wealthy and the banking institutions have been using against us for years. I show people how to reduce or possibly eliminate both debt and taxes and become their own bank and pay themselves compound interest instead of the financial institutions. And that in itself is absolutely a huge thing. And people don't understand. Understand debt is probably the number one problem in the United States. 83% of all Americans are in debt right now. We've got $61 billion just charged in credit cards on since the first of the year.
Wow.
Personal debt is over $17 trillion. And people don't have a good understanding about taxes. People say, they contribute to a 401k as an example. I said, why do you do that? Well, it's a tax deduction. I tell them it's a tax compounder. I said, would you rather pay taxes on the seed, the smallest amount, or the harvest, the larger amount? At an interest rate, at a penalty, it's not an interest rate, but a tax rate that's going to be determined in the future. Now, understand this.
Yeah.
We've got a $31 trillion deficit right now. And that's not even with the budgets that President Biden wants to propose. It's over $7 trillion. And this is a Congressional Budget Office report last October, I believe it was October, that said, if we don't raise the taxes by over 66% overall, we're not going to be able to pay the taxes on the interest on our debt, and the country will go bankrupt.
Wow.
Well, the country can't go bankrupt. So what they do, it's called quantitative easing.
Yes.
They print more money. And what
Right.
that causes in inflation, it makes your dollar worth less. But what I want to show people is how to retire tax-free, protect themselves from long-term care, completely tax-free, protect themselves from litigation, especially doctors and businessmen. You're protecting from lawsuits, liens, and judgments. Protect yourself from probate. Do you understand what probate is?
Oh, I want you to break down everything. As a matter of fact, let's take a step back. Let's do this. A lot of colleagues that watch this show are new graduates or in optometry school. So I want to take it from the beginning. Say I graduate from optometry school. I step out, I get that big 6-figure paying job. What's the first thing that I need to do, Alan, to make sure that I'm secure in the future when it comes to my finances? Kind of walk me through that journey of what I do coming out of school, and what is it that the wealthy are doing to keep their money and to make sure that they're not losing a lot of it to taxes. So kind of walk me through what I need to do when I come out of school. Let's start from there.
Well, what the wealthy people do is use other people's money. And the first thing you need to do is get out of debt.
Okay.
And I can show you how to get out of debt, pay yourself compound interest instead of the financial institutions. As Einstein said, people who understand compound interest will benefit from it. People who don't are going to pay it. And I'm going to give you a real quick example, okay?
Break it down.
That you do one of the strategies I do with a policy that I recommend. It's a cash value policy. And your cash value in this is $100,000, just as an example. And you want to buy a car for $50,000. Now you can go to the dealer or the bank, get a loan. Let's say it's 0% interest. And you pay for that car over a 10-year period, $10,000 a year. Okay? Now, at the end of that 5 years, that car may be worth, what, $30,000?
Sure.
All right. Instead of paying, but understand, that money that you pay to that bank, that money is gone forever. It's just like taxes. Money that you pay to taxes and money you pay to financial institutions in the form of interest is gone forever. It will never compound for you. But if you take that money out of a cash value life insurance policy that you own and control, you become your own bank. So you pay yourself back $10,000 a year at 0% interest. Now understand this too. It's just very important. Now that you have paid that loan off, you own the car, it's got $30,000, but you also have the $50,000 that you paid for the car, plus probably another $5,000 to $10,000 because you're paid dividends on the original amount, the original $100,000 in your cash value account, because the companies that I use are mutual companies that look out for the policyholders, not the stockholders, and it's a non-direct recognition company, which means they have to pay you dividends on the original amount of that cash value. So now, not only do you have your car paid off, you own it, it's worth $30,000. You have the $50,000 back in your account that will continue to compound for you for the rest of your life, and you've got even more money because you're paying dividends on this every year.
So, people are listening to this and they're like, Alan, this sounds too good to be true, man. So I hear what you're saying, and I've heard different policies, and, some of these policies, I understand it takes time to build out. And I understand you're saying you get dividends from the beginning, but I'm gonna give you some pushback, man. So we gotta really break this down, make it, easy to see, clearly to understand, make it transparent, because it sounds too good to be true, my friend. I mean, so let's dive a little deeper into this.
One thing, it's not too good to be true. It's too good to be free. Okay. So I understand. I mean, not everybody can go in there and put $100,000. There's a lot of people out there that got $100,000 in CDs sitting there making 1% or nothing, and they have no control of it. They have no liquidity, use control of their money. And I made a speech at Harvard back in 2017, and it was filled with about 150 people, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, Fortune 500 companies. And I said, you need to have liquidity, use, and control of your money. And I said, I have financial strategies, financial products will change your future. But I challenge you to take charge of your financial future. And I tell people to think outside the box of conventional financial planning. And I said, and I tell business owners, would you rather have a tax deduction instead of paying capital gains tax when you sell your business? And of course, I want a tax deduction. How do you do that? Well, Dr. Darrell, it's not how I do it, it's who I know. Listen, I treat my business just like a doctor. I ask question after question.
Right.
Those questions answered, because if they're not answered and I come up with some feasibility study or some financial plan, it would be malpractice on my part. Now understand, I was a registered investment advisor, but I do not do that anymore. And what that does, I can do assets under management, which are stock and bond portfolio, because I have a personal problem. It's a conflict of interest with me. I will not charge people a fee whether they make money or not. Okay, so I don't do that, but I have a team of people that I work with. If the client wants a stock portfolio, I give them to these people that works on that. But I collaborate with top CPAs, tax-specific attorneys, and other specialists in their fields to give the client the best possible scenario. And I tell people, I say, listen, I'm your medical doctor. I come to you, Dr. Darrell, I say, you need knee surgery. Are you going to want me to do it, or are you going to want an orthopedic surgeon, the specialist, to do it? Well, obviously the specialist. And that's
Absolutely.
what I the specialist. But I mean, it not only goes from there, but I have affluent clients, multi-millionaires that tell me, Alan, all my CPA, all my advisors handle all my tax and financial advice. I said, listen, I'm not here to replace anybody's advisor. I want to work with them as a team to give you, the client, as the best possible scenario. But I want to leave you with one thought. I said, you may have the greatest financial advisors in the world, but it's what they don't know that's going to end up costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in undue taxes, fees, and lost opportunity cost. And they think about it for a minute, and they said, we need to talk. But the thing is, it's all about education. And many of the things, the majority of things I teach and educate people on should be taught in high school. But I have clients that have PhDs in economics and finance. They have no idea what I'm talking about until I tell them.
Yeah.
And they say the same thing like you said before.
Yeah.
Why hasn't my CPA or my attorney or my financial advisor ever told me about this? And I have one thing to say about that. Your CPA wants the proper figures for the tax returns. Your financial planner wants to find the best possible financial vehicles for you. And your attorney is worried about your legal documents, wills, trust. And I asked people, I said, when is the last time anyone ever gave you proactive advice on your taxes? And it's almost always or never when I've learned. And everybody I talk to, they don't. In fact, I had 3 people today. I've never had any proactive advice from my CPA. And that's one of the first things I ask people, especially businessmen, doctors like you. What is your biggest expense? And my college education, my house, my business. I said, no, your biggest expense is taxes. If I can show you a way to save 80% of your, I'll give you my first example. I was dealing with a oral surgeon. I've never met him. He was a referral. I had 5 Zoom calls with him. And I said the same question. What's your biggest expense? And I told him tax. He said, you're absolutely right, Alan. I got to pay $380,000 in taxes this year. I said, okay, what I want you to do is fill out this form. It's called the confidential questionnaire. And then we'll get back together next week. And I'm going to confer with a friend of mine. He's one of the top financial advisors in the world. And we're going to come up with a plan for you. So we called next week. We're doing a Zoom conference. I said, doctor, how would you like to have a $250,000 tax deduction this year? Not only this year, for 10 years, and then $350,000 for the next 10 years, because he wanted to open his practice and expand.
Sure.
He says, well, how are we going to do that? I said, it's not how, it's who. Because we know people know how to do this. So what we did, we set him up with there's many financial vehicles, but we set him with this financial vehicle that he set up a charitable organization. And people know, some people are charitably inclined, some people aren't. But understand this, how would you like to give to a charity and get a deduction and then have your tax-free retirement paid for by that tax deduction? And that's what we did with him. He got a $250,000 tax deduction. We couldn't give the entire $250,000 to his charity. We only give him units of this so-called trust or whatever we put this financial vehicle in. So he only got 80%. Well, 80% of 250 is $200,000 at a 40% tax bracket. We saved him $80,000 a year, every year for the first 10 years and more than that after that. But what we did, we took that $80,000 a year and bought him $8 million worth of life insurance.
Okay.
We finance life insurance, which I explained in that book.
Right. Okay. So I see where you're going. I want to circle back. We had a question pop up here, and it looks like all the financial gurus and eye care are coming out. I want to circle back to something you touched on in regards to the cash value life insurance, right? We have one of our colleagues, Evan. He said, when you borrow from a cash value life insurance company, isn't it true that you are borrowing from the insurance company against the cash value? It's a form of debt, is it not?
I love this question. It's a great question. Okay. Understand, let's say that you've got $200,000 in your cash value and you got $1 million of death benefit. Okay. And you're a business owner and you need to borrow $50,000 to buy a piece of equipment to enhance your business. All right. You can go to the bank, fill out the paperwork. You may or may not get that loan. If you don't pay that loan off, you're going to get, well, first off, if you do get the loan, you're going to have a 6-month note, a 12-month note, or an installment loan to pay that off. If you don't pay it off, they're going to repossess that equipment and ruin your credit. But what you can do, you've got $200,000 in your cash value. Okay, that's your money. It's not the insurance company's. That's your money. So what you do, call the insurance company. I've done it a couple of times. Say, I need this much money. They're going to send you a check in a couple of days. Now understand this. The insurance company does not put that as a lien against your cash value. That continues to compound. What they do is put it as a lien against your death benefit. You don't even have to pay the loan back if you don't want to. It just comes off the death benefit.
Gotcha.
But there's 3 types of loans with insurance companies, okay? The first one is what I call a net loan. Now, I've got 8 insurance policies on myself and my wife. I've got 2 whole life policies for the college education for my granddaughters. I've got a whole life policy for my debt-free for life program for myself. And I got 5 index universal life insurance policy for my wife and I, tax-free retirement, which is going to come up here in 1 year. And I'll explain that in a minute. But as an example, you borrow $50,000. I've got 3 policies with Allianz. It's a great company. And they're going to charge you 5%. That's guaranteed. They're charging you 5% on any money that you borrow. So what the insurance company is going to do, they'll take that $50,000 and put it as a lien against the death benefit, but they're going to put it into a financial entity that's saying making 3%. They're going to credit me with the 3%, so I'm only paying 2% for my loan. Okay? Now, you can do this immediately in a policy with Allianz. You buy a rider for it, it costs you, or sometimes be the company for 10 years, and they'll do what they call a wash loan. So what they do is take that $50,000 and put it into a financial entity that's paying 5%. Okay? They're going to pay you back that 5%, and you're paying 0 for your loan. But this is what I do. This is what the wealthy do. The banks do it every day. You know, you put it, I'll explain that in a minute. But we're guaranteed by contract never to have a loss due to a market downturn because we're not tied to the market. We use indexing strategies to grow our cash value. Okay, there's the S&P 500 index, the Russell index, there's all kinds of it. The Barclays Dynamic Balance Index. There's hundreds of indices out there, but one of the simplest ones to explain this is the trigger method by Allianz. Okay, what they'll do, the trigger method, if the S&P 500 index goes up 0%, 1%, or makes 20%, your automatic credit, I think it's 7% right now. It may be a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not sure. But let's say it's 7%. You're credited with a 7%. You're only paying 5% for your loan. You're making 2%. That's called arbitrage. The banks do it every day. You put $100,000 in a savings account. Maybe you get 1,000. You get 1%. They'll go loan that money out at 5, 10, 15, 20%. And that's one of the reasons the banks are failing right now because they're over leveraged. Understand this. Let's say the insurance company, let's say Allianz writes a $100,000 policy on you. They've got to have $100,000 in their general account.
Right.
Plus an 8% surplus, I believe. But the companies I work with have over 100%. And I was flying back from Nashville at a conference I was at, and there was this banker sitting next to me, and I was explaining this, and I said, let me ask you a question. How much do you have to loan $100 million out? I think about $12 million. Well, think about how many loans that $100 million can go bad. I mean, they're over leveraged. There's been over 500 banks that have gone under because they're over leveraged.
Right.
And people don't understand it. And insurance companies are the highest regulated industry in the world today, bar none. And I'll give you an example because I do rebuttals all the time on the internet. There's this wealth management company out in California. So I answered all the questions, and they called me up and said, Mr. Porter, why do you like annuities? I said, well, I like fixed and fixed indexed annuities because they give guaranteed income. And they said, well, what if that insurance company goes under? You lost all your money. I said, well, obviously you don't know how insurance companies are regulated. I live in North Carolina, and as an example, let's say State Farm issues 10% of all the insurance policy in North Carolina. First off, there's a tax that comes from our premiums and goes to a pool of money that's run by the state. Okay? And let's say that State Farm, not State Farm, but Pioneer Mutual, as an example, comes in and goes bankrupt 3 years later. Well, that pool of money the state has pays all the obligations. Okay? If there's any money left over in those obligations, State Farm has to pay 10% of it, or they don't sell insurance in North Carolina anymore. So the insurance companies look out for themselves. Now, I know there's insurance companies gone over, but like I told this guy, I know of, at that time it was 496 banks that have gone under and thousands of companies that he sells stocks on. I said, so don't talk to me about life insurance. Insurance companies being risky. Okay, they're the number one highest regulated industry in the world today, bar none, that I know of.
Okay, well that makes sense. I like that. There's a checks and balance system to make sure that the consumer, the customer is always taken care of, which is great. And that's something that, again, your new graduates, your optometry students, hell, even seasoned ODs, seasoned optometrists need to know that.
Think about this. Think about, my son-in-law had $250,000 in student debt. Did you have student debt coming out?
Absolutely. I was poor, man.
Almost all doctors do.
Yeah.
They do my debt-free for life program. Think about this.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of effective interest cost?
Say that again.
You ever heard of effective interest cost?
No. Talk to me about it.
Well, don't feel lonely because 99% to include CPAs, attorneys, and financial planners don't either. I had a gentleman, he's retired military, great friend of mine. 6'6", young black man, bald head, whitest teeth in the world. And he called me because he wanted to do a debt-free for life. He'd retire when he's 42 years old, but he wanted to do for my retirement tax-free for life program that I do. So I asked him, I said, what kind of debt do you have? He said, well, I just bought a new house. I got 2 cars and about 4 or 5 other payments. I asked him, I said, what's your interest rate that you're paying on your mortgage? He said, 2.75. I said, what's your effective interest cost? I don't know. I've never heard of it. I said, okay, I want you to do this. I want you to fill this form out. We're going to do a Zoom conference next week. He said, okay. We did it. And I'm explaining to him. I said, he had $461,000 in debt. I said, that's not your problem. See that 2.75% APR that you have in your mortgage? Your effective interest cost is over 49%. He says, how's that possible? I said, because it's not going to get down to the 2.75 until the last couple of months of the mortgage.
Oh, I know where you're going with it. Yeah.
Okay. I said, on these bills right here, you've got a great interest. I mean, you got great credit.
Yeah.
Your effective interest cost is over 46%. So I asked him, I said, where are you investing your 401k or any other financial vehicle that you're getting a 46% return on your money? Because understand this, 46% of every dollar, 46 cents of every dollar that you spend paying these financial institutions goes to interest.
Right.
He said,
Right.
oh my God, I didn't think about that. So he had $1,000 he was paying to his 401k with that new company. I said, I'm not going to change your lifestyle, but let's get this debt paid off. So we got the debt paid off. I did a plan for him. What I did was I set up a SDIC, a specially designed insurance contract. And instead of paying the $1,000 a month towards his bills, plus the minimum payments on all of them, I put that money into a specially designed insurance contract. And I asked him, I said, how soon are you going to have all this debt paid off? He said, well, approximately 20 some years as an example, because we're paying extra on the mortgage. I said, well, guess what? Look at my plan. I'm paying it off 14.7 years faster. I'm saving over $76,000 in interest. And at the 12th or 13th year, I'm going to give you over $139,000 of tax-free money in your cash value that you can become your own bank, and over $400,000 in a death benefit that you can use tax-free for long-term care or as a legacy for your beneficiaries. And this is one of the most emotional presentations I looked up. Because think about this. This guy's about 6'6", and I could tell he's smiling, but he looks up and tears come down his face.
Wow.
He said, Alan, you made a dream of mine come true. I'll be debt-free when I'm 52 years old. I can do anything I want. I said, you're absolutely right. I said, at that point, now we'll do your tax-free retirement plan. He said, I don't know what to say. I said, don't keep me a secret. Tell your friends and family.
So I like this conversation. You're sharing some of these strategies. You're sharing what the wealthy do. You're helping out all these eye care professionals, these healthcare professionals that are out there. Some of them might be aware of this stuff. Some may not be, right? But let's kind of get a little basic here. You touched on life insurance policies earlier, and you listed maybe a million different ones, right? Let's kind of take it from the beginning and break down what each one of those actually look like, because there are colleagues out there that are saying, I don't know what I should do for insurance. Should I do term? Should I do whole? Should I do, let's kind of touch on that to keep it a little basic and then expand from there.
All right. I want you to think about, first off, all life insurance products are great. They protect the family and they can protect their assets. But let's just say you've got $1,000 or $10,000. Would you rather spend $1,000 a year or $10,000 a year for a $500,000 death benefit? Well, everybody said, well, $1,000. I said, okay, but the only thing you're going to get for that is term life insurance, and that's set by the actuaries of the insurance company. And if you live one day past life expectancy, there's zero cash value. And the longer you live, the more expensive term life insurance becomes.
Right.
And if you pay up to life expectancy into that term life insurance policy, you'll have almost the same amount of money, probably maybe more than you do in a cash value, whether it's an index universal life or whole life policy. But if it's put into a cash value life insurance policy, understand this, that policy, that $500,000 death benefit may be worth $1.5 million now, and you've got $800,000 or $900,000 in your cash value account that you can use any way you want. Now, what's crazy about this, there used to be no line at the top. There's a line at the bottom for term insurance. But until 1988, the people that know the tax laws, the wealthy, the banks have over, I believe, $190 billion of cash value life insurance as their one of their top tier one assets. It's more than twice as much as they have in real estate. You go to FDIC.gov and find this out. But understand this. There was no limit on that. And they as an example, they put $1 million in those policy for a $500,000 death benefit. Of course, they don't need that million. But all the rest of the money that was not paying for life insurance was going tax deferred, and they were getting distributions tax free. And up until 1998, sometime around there, the government says, we can't have this anymore. We're losing too much revenue. So they put a line in there, Dr. Darrell, and if you get more money than what the government allows, it's called a modified endowment contract, and you lose all your tax advantages, which are absolutely huge. Now, understand this. When I talk to people, I said, why do you contribute to a 401k? It's a tax deduction. It grows tax deferred. I said, I understand that, but it's a tax compounder. But cash value life insurance also grows tax deferred. What about tax-free distribution? They all come back to me and say, well, my Roth IRA, my Roth 401k is tax-free distribution. I understand that. Well, what about municipal and educational bonds? I said, they're not tax-free. First off, if you live in a state other than where those bonds are issued, you have state tax to pay. And if your state is large enough, you have estate tax to pay. And they both affect the taxation of Social Security and the means testing Social Security, and the means testing for Medicare Part B. So they're not tax-free at all. The only other financial product that I know of is cash value life insurance, whether it's indexed, universal life, whole life, not variable life, because that's tied to the market, but they're all tax-free. So what we do here, I said, what does not affect taxation of Social Security? And they all come back, well, I think that my Roth products do not. I said, you're correct. But so does cash value life insurance. Another thing that your Roth products do, which is great, it protects you from required minimum distributions. Now, do you understand what that is?
Oh, break it down.
Well, believe me, I've got 65-year-olds that have no idea what it is. But it used to be at 70 and a half. Now, because of the new Secure Act, it's 72. But if you do not take the money that the government requires you out of your 401k or any qualified plan, it's a 50% penalty plus all the taxes. Now, understand this. I had a 65-year-old in my office. He's a millionaire. He didn't need the money. He had $1 million in an IRA. I said, what are you going to do with that? He said, well, I'm going to give it to my grandson. I said, well, you can't do that anymore. He said, what are you talking about? I said, first thing, whose money is that? He said, well, it's mine. I think he got kind of mad at me. There's my name right there at the account. I said, I understand this, but you have a partner. It's called Uncle Sam. And back then, his tax brackets were 39.6%. You just lost 40% just to federal taxes. That doesn't include state tax or anything else. Oh, my God, I didn't think about that. And I said, because of the new Secure Act that came in, there's no such thing as a stretch IRA anymore. You cannot will that to your grandson or your family. That money has to, when you pass away, it can go to your spouse or some disabled people, but that money has to be spent in a 10-year period, and it's taxed at their tax rates and not yours. He said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, you got to pay taxes on it. He said, well, I don't want to pay. I said, nobody wants to pay taxes. We're the lowest tax bracket we've been in 70 years.
Right.
You realize taxes back in 1942 were over 94%. That's why Ronald Reagan only made 2 movies. $200,000, it all went to taxes. 94, and then there's state tax on top of it. But get back to what I was saying. I said, now think about this. You're not paying tax on Social Security, the means test for Medicare Part B, but you pay. What I did is set it up to turn $200,000 a year over a 5-year period. We paid the taxes on that, and now that IRA still grew, but now it's going tax-free. And I told him, I said, I want you to think about something. It's going to go tax-free during your lifetime, your son's lifetime, and when your grandson finally gets it in his retirement or before, think how much money that's going to be, completely tax-free, free of taxation of Social Security, free of Medicare, the Medicare testing Part B. It's going to be in the millions of dollars. He said, oh, my God, you're right. So I said, and he did the plan. But I said, here's the other thing, long-term care. And I said, for simplicity's sake, He said, well, I got this $1 million for long-term care. I said, all right, let's make this real simple for you. Let's say that your wife needs long-term care. And as I said before, I think long-term care right now costs between $50,000 to $200,000 a year. And let's say your wife needs long-term care. It costs $100,000 a year. I said, how much money in a 25% tax bracket are you going to be able to take out of that $1 million to net $100,000? And he figured up, $125,000. I said, well, why is that? I said, you're wrong, first off. He said, what do you mean? I said, why are you saying 125,000? He said, because 25,000 is 25%. You said I was a 25% tax bracket, 25% of 100,000. I said, do you realize if you took out $125,000 in your 25% tax bracket, you only net $92,000. You've got to net $137,000 just to net $100,000. I said, if she's in long-term care for a period of time, that money's going to be gone.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Well, nobody else does either. And they need to think. And they're, like I said, this stuff ought to be taught in high school. This is not rocket science.
Yeah. I mean, when you say it, it seems all basic, right? But again, when we're in school, it's one of those things where we want to make sure you can see well. We want to make sure the eyes are healthy. We're making it so that you can read these things and be able to do what you do. That's what we as eye care professionals do, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to see more of us, more educated in regards to finances, more educated, especially when it comes to taxes, because taxes, to your point earlier, can eat up a lot of your money, right? And if you're young and you come out of school and you're, making six figures and you look at how much taxes you pay over time, if there are ways, and we know there are ways that you can, reduce that, we need to start doing those things. And that's the main reason why I wanted to bring you on this show. I mean, we kind of went, high level, got a little bit into the weeds. I took in a lot of the information. I processed some of it. Some of it went over my head. Not going to lie about that. But I know I'm going to have to rewatch this to get some of the gems that you dropped. And I'm probably going to have to bring you back on the show to elaborate a little more in detail as well.
I want you to understand something. There's a graph that's put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's a big circle graph, and it's divided into parts. It's got 40% going to taxes, 25% going to lifestyle, 25% going to debt, and 10% going to your 401k or whatever. 40% of all the money that you make before retirement and after retirement is going to some form of taxes. I have people tell me, well, I'm not in the 40% tax bracket. I said, I understand that. There's taxes on a pack of chewing gum, taxes on gasoline. There's 52 different types of taxes we pay. And people need to understand, when you pay taxes that are undue and unnecessary, you've lost that money. That money will never compound for you again.
Right.
That 5% goes to your lifestyle. That pays for your lifestyle, your car, your house, the clothes you wear. But then we want nicer cars. We want nicer things. So we put money on credit cards, take out a big mortgage for a nicer home. And that goes to debt. And understand that money is paid to debt. That's compounding interest for some financial institution and not for yourself. And that's what I want to do. I want to show people how to reduce or eliminate both debt and taxes, provide them more spendable income, not only now, but in the future, and make yourself your own bank. Pay compound interest yourself and not the financial institutions. I want to show you the strategies that the wealthy and the banks have been using against us for years, and everybody can do it. It just takes discipline and education.
Hey, I love it, man. I mean, I think honestly that might be the best way to end this, man. I mean, you left us with the perfect gem for everyone to go home and think about. But before we leave, man, I really would like for you to share how folks can, number one, get the book that you wrote, Wealth Beyond Taxes, but also how they can get in touch with you, man, if they want to learn more, and especially those colleagues of mine that are in North Carolina, how do they reach out to you and get in touch, and how do they get their hands on this book, my friend?
All right. Well, I do business all over the United States. Number one. Okay. You can go to Amazon and get that book, or if you contact me, I'll ship it to you free, along with other books that I think people need to read, because it's all about education. But you can call me anytime at 910-551-1046. Again, that's 910-551-1046. Now, if I don't answer, I'm very busy. Like I had 16 appointments yesterday, 13 today. I will get back with you. Believe me, I'm very passionate about what I do. My email address is strategicwealth0@gmail.com. Again, that is strategicwealth0.com. or you can go to my website. It's www.alanporter, A-L-A-N, Porter, P-O-R-T-R, nc.com/strategic wealth strategies, or my Debt Free for Life program, which is debtfreeforlifeamerica.com. And you go on there. I mean, I got all kinds of videos. I got all kinds of papers on there, third-party articles. But give me a call, 910-551-1046. I'd love to talk to everybody about securing their financial future.
Hey, man, Al, I really appreciate you taking time to chat with me this evening. This has been fantastic. You dropped a lot of gems. Again, I'm going to go back and rewatch this and write out some things and probably connect with you even more offline, man. But I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. You continue the great work, man. Continue putting the education out there. Continue to connect with healthcare professionals, because we make a lot of money. Yep. We pay a lot of taxes, and we got to figure out how to get away from that taxes. That way we can set up future generations. Everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darrell Glover. Stay healthy, stay positive, and stay blessed. And until next time, peace. All right, colleagues, and it's a wrap. Thank you dearly for hanging out with the D-Focus Media team. We hope truly something resonated with you. And if it did, be sure to give us 5 stars. And make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. And our handle is at D-Focus Media on all platforms. And until next time, be sure to keep it 2020